Welcome to part 5 of this series of videos.
The first thing I want to look at are standards. And this is a fairly comprehensive table showing standards of the various pollutants: carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, photochemical oxidants, and sulfur dioxide. Now, this is clearly American because they spell sulfur differently. And lead. Lead is a particularly important pollutant because it has quite serious and debilitating long-term health effects. And now we're starting to see this nomenclature of PM 2.5 and PM 10. So there's the reference. That's where I got that diagram from, but I also, that table from, but I also found a rather better presented table. And they're the same pollutants and the same spelling of sulfur. But you can see that these reported values have to be averaged over a particular length of time. And using standard equipment. And let's look at lead particularly. The averaging period is 1 year. And I guess that reflects the effect, the long-term insidious effect of lead pollution. It also reflects the capacity of local authorities to take some action. Because if you had a highly variable reading, you might think that the reading on a particular day might be indicative of the long-term effect. Well, it may or may not be. So again, if you want more details, there's the reference, and this is the Australian government legislation. And I've just copied in here some of the footnotes to this table. And you see that lead sampling must be carried out for a period of 24 hours, at least every 6th day for a whole year. And it talks about what it means by a day average or a year average or an 8-hour average. And this was the interesting one that I found. For the purposes of calculating and reporting 4 and 8-hour averages, the first rolling average in a calendar day ends at 1 a.m. and includes the hours from the previous calendar day. So if you're serious about doing some hand recording, you're going to be up fairly late at night, but that's not how it works because these instruments are automated and they would actually give a reading at 10-second intervals or something like that. Sorry, 10-minute intervals usually. Right, so we've got particulates in the air. Particulates I'm talking about. And the way we can get rid of these, or the ways we can get rid of these, first of all, there's what's called a cyclone. And I've designed a couple of these and they work. And it's rather fun. You can hook up a vacuum cleaner to the top there and you can pull in the dust from the left-hand side there. And they work very well. They work on the principle that the swirling air contacts the sides of the cyclone and slows it down, and the dust solid particles are precipitated, or they're dropped out of the slower air, and their velocity is decreased, and they drop down through gravity into the flash chamber. That's not absolutely necessary. You can see how the airflow is circular on the outside and then spirals up on the inside. But then you've got to have this interesting little device here, which they call a star feeder, which is just it's a rotating valve, so that you can drop the material in there and you get the material going through the valve, but the air can't also go through. So that's a cyclone. You can make a very effective cyclone with a piece of cardboard and a vacuum cleaner. Actually works very well. I think Mr. Dyson with his vacuum cleaners has got this down to a fine art. So next we come to the traditional type of device called bag filters. I'm just looking at the top of the diagram here. This is a particular type of filter where the bags are on the dirty side, and they're held in place by a wire frame which you can't see. And so the air passes up through the bags and is exhausted as clean air at the top, or taken into whatever second use is required for the clean air. And there are various ways of cleaning these. One of them is to reverse the flow of the air, so that when you reverse the flow, you blow the dust off the outside of the bags and it falls down into the hopper down below, and you get rid of it. And there'll be another one of those circular valves in the bottom here. So that's if you like, the old-fashioned way. They can have a very large air cleaning capacity. There's a reference there with lots of information there, particularly how they're cleaned and different types. And then we come to the more modern variety, electrostatic precipitators. And it's based on the principle, you create an electric field, the charged particles are attracted to electrodes there, and there's a mechanism for shaking them or blowing air through, or reversing the airflow to drop the particles down into the hopper down below. And your air pollution meters, handheld, would work on a similar principle, except they're looking at much smaller particles. So that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next video very shortly.